Okay, so today we're going to go over a topic that I get asked every hunting season. It's about cleaning and maintenance of your rifle. So what I'm going to do here is I've got two different rifles on the bench. One is a Gunworks, made out of Cody, Wyoming. The other one is a Christensen Arms carbon barreled rifle. It's made out of Fayette, Utah. There's not a lot of difference in between the cleaning procedures other than one gun has a muzzle brake and the other one doesn't. And what I'm going to do is we'll just cut to the chase, and I'll go over the tools that I use real quick and what it takes to actually properly clean a rifle. For starters, I've got a Tipton gun vise. This is a really nice gun vise. What it actually does is it'll hold your rifle into proper position. It'll cam lock over and tighten against the buttstock, keeping that rifle nice and secure. It also has an AR-15 tool for those of you who have AR style rifles. This can be purchased at Cabela's or any of your sporting goods stores. So we got gloves here, some bolt grease, chamber swab, Sinclair International, you can purchase that online. A lug recess cleaner as well, you can purchase that online at Sinclair also. These other products can be purchased at Cabela's or any of your other sporting goods stores. This is a bore guide, a couple of brass cleaning jags, a nylon bore brush, and just another nylon, looks like a toothbrush, is the cleaning tool. And I'll show you what we use this for as well. These can be purchased at Sinclair International. It's basically like an extended Q-tip. You don't need to be brand name specific on the cleaning rod, but just make sure you've got a high quality cleaning rod that uses ball bearings. That way when you push it in the bore, you'll be able to actually fill, especially right at where you start at the throat, where it's a little dirtier. And this one has a stop, so you don't run it all the way through, because on some of the gun stocks you got to be careful that once you put the bore guide in there and then you'll move back to the rear of the gun, you'll actually chip the paint if you're not real careful where that butts up. So that bore stop's really nice, or that guide stop. You know, this is a Christensen Arms made out of Fayette, Utah. The only real difference in cleaning you're going to do is this one has a muzzle brake, and I'll show you what we do there. This gun here is manufactured out of Cody, Wyoming. It's a Gunworks 6.52-84. They're both very accurate, really nice guns. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the bolt. And bear with me here, I'm trying to film and do this all at the same time, all with one set of hands. Go ahead and insert the proper bore guide. And that'll just go in gently and easy, and you'll feel when it fits inside that chamber nice and snug. And then you can just loosen that set screw, roll that down, and that fits in place of where your bolt would normally be. Keeps this from rocking back and forth. What I've selected here is, this is actually a 6.5-284, but I'm going to use a 24 caliber bore brush. With the cleaning patch that I use, I feel like it's kind of trial and error, but I get the best fit and feel with this 24 caliber bore brush. So just a little bit undersized, but it works really well. I'm going to insert the cleaning rod into the bore guide, and I'm just going to follow it out till it just sticks out the muzzle here. Okay, now I'm going to go back here, and you'll notice, this is what I was talking about earlier, you got this set screw, which you can zip it right along, tighten it up again, and that will give you an indication of when you're going to be popping out the end of the bore, so you're not putting excessive pressure. Some Butch's Bore Shine here, really good high quality solvent. I'm just going to go ahead and dab that on, let that soak into that patch a little bit. Okay, so we've got the cleaning patch on there. You're not going to want to rub this back and forth, you're just going to want to do one solid stroke all the way through. And with this ball bearing cleaning rod, if you got any spots in there, heavy buildup spots, you're going to be able to feel that. And you'll notice we're coming to the end of our travel, and out pops. A lot of buildup, but a little buildup on that. One thing you want to be very careful of is when you pull that back through the bore, that you don't nick the crown, because the mating surface of where this, let me pull that out a little bit more so you can see. What will happen is you'll end up with a gap here as this twists with the twist rate of your gun, and when you pull it back through, you'll feel it nick the crown. So you want to be real careful there, that when you've inserted that all the way out, that you know that that's tight again, and then just pull it back to the bore real slow, especially until you get past that crown area. And there's also another tool you can buy on here, which is basically just like a catch, and I don't have one. I don't know where I've actually misplaced mine. It just fits over the bore. It's a big cylindrical tube. It's clear, and what that'll do is just collect the patch and the cleaning compound as it comes to the end of the bore, so it doesn't drip down. Now I just do that one time, and then I switch over to the JB bore paste. So now you can see I've switched over to the JB bore paste here. Let me find a clean spot on my mat so I don't run any of that stuff down in the chamber. I'm just going to want to put a little bit of this on the cleaning patch. This we're going to do a little bit differently. We're not going to just do one shove all the way through. They actually recommend that you work this back and forth a little bit. So we'll just gently work it back and forth until we get to the end of the bore. We're just going to work that back and forth real slow. And once again, if you've got a nice ball bearing cleaning rod, you're going to be able to feel where that bore is dirty. It's going to have a little bit of a tint to it after it's clean. If you used to use that when this gun was really dirty, that'd be a heavily fouled patch. But that looks pretty good. Run this through 2 different times, and then I follow it up with, it's a red bore paste. It's also made by JB. We can skip the second one though. We're going to go to the last one here real quick. Got that on our cleaning patch. And we're going to go ahead and run that through the bore. Again, with the JB bore paste, we're just going to work that back and forth real slow. We're going to go ahead now and switch back over to the Butch's bore shine to clean that paste out of the bore. And you'll notice that's that gap I was talking about from working that back and forth. We got that gap in the threads there. So we're going to screw that back on and just pull it back through the crown area so we don't nick the crown. Now we're going to do the final cleaning on this bore, and some things you'll notice, especially with the JB bore paste, is you're going to have some buildup right there and right there on the top of the bore guide. This is also another place on the top of the bore guide, you can rotate that slightly, where you're going to get some buildup. So you'll want to go ahead and clean that off before you run your final patches. Okay, back here again, we're moving on to the final step of cleaning the bore. I've got a clean patch with the Butch's bore shine on there, and we're just going to shove it through the entire length. See that patch there? You can see the 2 different colors of JB bore paste that we have on there. And we're going to run another one through. Okay, as you can see, we've still got a little build up. So we're going to go ahead and run one more patch through of the Butch's bore shine, so that'll be 3 patches. And then we'll go ahead and follow it up by a dry patch. Got some buildup from the bore shine and the bore paste, so we're going to take another cleaning cloth and clean this off before we run the final cloth through there. And that'll give you an idea of just how dirty that cleaning rod was. Dry patch we're running through now. Looks pretty good. It's coming out pretty clean, as you can see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just barely back that up a little, just till it's barely sticking out of the bore, because we're going to want to go ahead and clean the crown. So I just back that up in there a little so I don't get them solvents back into the bore. I'm going to take my brush here. I've got a little bit of Butch's bore shine on the end of that. I'm just going to lightly brush that crown off. That last bit of buildup on the crown off. You can see there's a little bit of buildup, but not a lot. So now we're going to move on to cleaning the inside of the chamber. And this again is from Sinclair International. It's a lug recess cleaning tool. You can see that it's just shaped like a set of bolt lugs. It's dirty, and rather than buy a ton of replacements, what I do is I just grab a shotgun patch, a little bit larger patch, and I put over the top of that, and I insert that into the lugs and turn it, and we'll show you what happens. We're going to insert that into the chamber and clean the lug recesses. And you're just going to want to twist that around once one direction, then bring it back the other direction. Sometimes they're really dirty, and a lot of times they're not. Inside those lug recesses. A lot more than what you would have figured. So a really important tool. We're going to go ahead and run a couple more through there. I'll turn the video camera off and come back in just a second. Okay, as you can see, using that lug recess tool, it took about 3 patches to get that clean. A lot more grit in there than what you would think. Now we're going to move over to the chamber swab. Once again, you can either keep buying chamber swabs, because you'll find out they dirty real quickly, and you go ahead and wash them out, but they wear out very quickly. So I once again just stick a shotgun patch over top of that chamber swab, and then go ahead and we'll just go ahead and rotate that. You can see, using that Stony Point bore guide, there's a lot less residue in that chamber. If you was to just take a cleaning rod and run that through there, you'd be running between 8 to 10 patches through there trying to clean that chamber. Now some other areas just to pay attention to right here is the bearing surface where the bolt rides on. You can just run your finger in there to clean that off. I wouldn't recommend taking the gun apart unless you know it's really dirty, because what you'll do, especially on these custom guns, is you'll get some, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll end up getting some dirt down in there between the bedding compound and screwing up the bedding, and that gun isn't going to pattern like it normally would. Or when these manufacturers, when they manufacture these custom guns, they'll torque those action screws to a specific setting, and unless you know that torque rate, you're going to change the torque on the gun, on the clean patch, and then finish it off with a, they make some real nice silicone cloth out there, and that's also good for the long run. Bolt face looks pretty clean, but a lot of times you'll get brass buildup, and so that's where you're going to want to come in here with your Q-tip, clean that out, clean all the other dirt out. Make sure that's nice and clean. You want to get that brass out of there, because that brass can go inside the firing pin or the extractor spring here and cause it to hang up. And notice these lugs are a little dirty, so we're going to go ahead and clean those up as well. Just got a little bit of Butch's bore shine on this bottom patch here. We'll clean that up. Rotate the bore, or rotate the bolt. And I'm going to grab a dry patch here. Make sure you get the back and front of the lugs. The back's the most important part, because that's what makes contact. Now we're going to take just a small amount of bolt grease, put on the back side of those lugs. That's actually way too much, so we'll scrape some of that off. Move it to the other side. And now one other thing you can do if you're going to be storing your gun for a while is you can run an oil patch through there. Now if you do run an oil patch through there, make sure that when it comes time to take that gun out of the closet again, that you just run some solvent through there real quick and clean that oil out, and then go out and fire your fouling shot. So this gun's clean. I'm going to just go ahead and take a look at the stock again. If I got any excess oils on the stock, I don't want to go ahead and clean those off. The only difference is this gun has a muzzle brake. So if you don't have a torque wrench made up, because these muzzle brakes are actually torqued to specs on there, is what you can go ahead is you can make a light mark, and then that'll give you an idea how tight to tighten that muzzle brake up each time, so that you're creating the same harmonics in the barrel. See, some of the crown right there is fairly clean, but the rest of it's got heavy deposits. Got some Butch's bore shine. We're just going to go ahead and put it on that crown, let it soak in for a minute, and then we'll take this nylon brush again and rub all that heavy deposit off of there. Finish getting that all the way cleaned off is we'll go ahead and clean these threads off. Take the brush, lightly clean those off, then take your patch and run that around there, and then we're going to put a little bit of bolt grease on that and torque that brake back on. All the way cleaned up now. We're just going to go ahead and put a little dab of bolt grease on these threads. It's plenty. Rub that around. And then we're going to go ahead and thread that brake. So that's it. Now we just go ahead and crank that brake back on and make sure our marks we've got on the bore and the brake are aligned, and she'll be torqued back to specs.